welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about. Dementia change. We will.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I am your host, Lori LeBay. My mom had dementia for 30 years, and that is exactly why I started this show. It's all about bringing people together, raising all voices all around the world. And I want to do a couple of shout outs for those of you that are new to us. Alzheimer Speaks is about sound information, not just sound bites. We like to have real conversations with real people. I want to thank the Mark Artisan Band for their beautiful song, Clarion Call, that they allow us to share on each of our shows. I just find that so uplifting. I am also co-founder of Dementia Map. And if you haven't checked it out, please do so. We have 150 different categories that you can search. We've got a fantastic blog, a glossary of terms, because Lord knows we don't know what we don't know until we don't know it. And so that can help you out there. There is also a calendar of events. So just check out dementiamap.com. And then we're still in this COVID slide, even though we seem to be kind of scooting out of it a little bit. I wanted to mention a couple of events that I have. I'm so excited to be doing a couple of live events. April 7th and 8th, I will be down in Winona, Minnesota, doing a screening and talk back of the film A Timeless Love. On the 7th, which is a Thursday, we'll be doing it at 6:30, Friday the 8th at 1 o'clock. And you can register at 507-454-5212. And I'm still doing Arthur's Memory Cafe online. And so you can join us virtually if you'd like. Right now we have somebody from Vienna and somebody from New Jersey, though the majority of us are from Minnesota here. We meet the second and fourth Wednesday of each month at 1 o'clock Central Time. And then I also facilitate a conversation for care partners. We're hoping in March we'll be able to go back in person, and that is last Wednesday of each month at 10 o'clock at the Shoreview Community Center. And you can reach out to me to find out more information about both of those. We are going to hear from the ALS authors and then also from the Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner. And then we'll be talking to our guest.
Hello, podcast listener. If you're caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's or dementia, you'll want to check out ALS Authors, the global community of authors writing about Alzheimer's and dementia from personal experience. We have the most comprehensive collection of hundreds of carefully vetted books and blogs covering all types of dementia and caring situations. Our authors' personal stories and painfully learned lessons can help you on your own journey. We also offer a fabulous podcast called Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia, which you can find on any of your podcast platforms. Remember, you are not alone. One can sing a lonely song, but we chose to form a choir and create harmony. Find us at allsauthors.com.
I love the footbar walker, and let me tell you why. It is the option for my toolbox that I've been waiting for. Let's be honest, there are some clients who, despite our best rehab efforts, just aren't able to return to performing a sit-to-stand transfer on their own. Now I can offer my caregivers an easier, safer option that doesn't involve hoisting their loved one up from a sitting position. I don't recommend this walker for all of my clients, but I do recommend this walker for those caregivers looking for an easier, safer option with transfers. I would also encourage other therapists to add this walker to their toolbox. It's kind of like having my own mobile parallel bars for the client to pull up on. Whether it's a family caregiver at home helping a loved one with Parkinson's or dementia, CNAs in a long-term care facility assisting their patients, or therapists adapting to client and caregiver-specific needs, we now have a very safe and effective option to offer in the footbar walker. Check this product out at thefootbarwalker.com. That's it for today from Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner. Have a great day, and don't forget, if you can't do it, adapt it.
So I'm really excited to have this conversation today. I was honored to talk with Christiana Egi a while back and just found her fascinating at all of the work that she is doing in the realm of dementia. She's been driven to be a care partner through her various life roles as a mother, a grandmother, a registered nurse, a diabetic educator, a registered natural health nutritionist, a geriatric and mental health specialist. And she's also the author of A Rose for Grandma, which is a wonderful children's book that isn't just for kids and really shares a beautiful story about dementia. Christiana has spent 10 years out of her 34-year career in nursing, working in the crisis unit of Canada's largest psychiatric hospital. And for the last 22 years, she has worked as the owner and operator of Alexis Lodge Retirement Facilities in Toronto, Canada. And it's a business that she started with her late husband, Anthony. And their whole goal was to impact the lives of those living with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. The Alexis Lodge is focused on putting individuals first and giving them a place to call home. This is a place where people are treated with love, respect, and dignity when they can no longer be cared for at home by their own loved ones. Christiana is a woman of faith, and she uses her belief as a guide to help her help others in the little things that make for big impact in their life. She has a daily goal of putting a smile on someone's face to help the world go around and be more positive. And this applies to all of those who care for those with dementia at Alexis Lodge as well. Christiana has always said that love and respect are the cornerstones of caring for an individual. And I couldn't agree more with her on that. She is determined to eradicate the stigma around dementia and mental illness during her life. And let me tell you, she is making one heck of an impact. So welcome, Christiana. I am just thrilled to have this conversation with you today. I always like to start out by asking, have you been touched by dementia in your own family or circle of friends? And if so, to what depth?
Actually, I have not, but the members of my Alexis Lodge family live with the challenges of Alzheimer's and other types of dementia every day. So I live that journey along with them.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And if you want to just give a plug for your company, feel free to go ahead and do that.
So Alexis Lodge Retirement Residence is a memory care facility in Toronto that I started with my husband about 23 years ago. We take care of people with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia in a home-like environment where we enhance their abilities, their individualities, and also their dignity.
Wonderful. What made you decide to go down that path? I mean, you've got a pretty extensive background, but what made you decide to go ahead and start your own facility community? That's a huge endeavor.
It is. As a matter of fact, it started over 35 years ago when I was a student nurse on my very first mental health rotation, which was preceded by tales of horror and fear. So when we arrived on the first day gripped with fear, we saw that everyone looked just like us, and they were very pleasant. We had fun with them. We danced, we did all different activities. And, it actually became my best rotation. But I was saddened by the fact that, they were plagued with such stigma. And I sort of vowed that, I would try to help eradicate the stigma around mental illness. When I graduated a couple of years after and had the opportunity to come to Canada, I thought for sure it would be different here. But sadly, I was wrong. I quickly realized that mental health stigma is worldwide and that it was an issue that needed to be dealt with. So I also had the opportunity to start out my career at the Center for Addictions and Mental Health, which is the largest psychiatric hospital in Canada. And I worked on the crisis unit for 10 years. However, my heart was consistently broken with the conditions in which some of the patients would come in. I would go home and vent to my husband, just wishing that maybe they had more supportive housing, they had people looking out for them, making sure they took their medications. Then they will not be coming back so often to the hospital. He would listen patiently and just reassure me. So when we had our third child, Alexis, he gave me the opportunity. And that was when we started Alexis Lodge Retirement Residence to look after individuals with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. So that's the story.
Well, it's funny because you kept seeing the need, and I think we all hope it'll be different somewhere else. And then you just get to this point of, I have to do something. This is not right. And so kudos to you and your family for stepping up and stepping in and providing, a better way to care, understanding the needs of why people are coming back, to the hospital setting, and that can be prevented if we care for them better outside the hospital, for sure. Now, you also write books, and you've written a beautiful children's book. Why don't we talk a little bit about that and what got you into deciding to write a book?
Actually, that is an extension of the whole story. So even though we had this opportunity to, start impacting lives and helping people live dementia with a different experience, but the pain in my heart continued to grow because I was now faced with families and, residents who had challenges. More than a third of my residents have no family involvement at all. So we become their families. And, it'll be easy for people to judge and say, oh, they're so mean, they don't care. But that is not true. You have to sort of look back and say, what happened? How did it come to this point? Because dementia is actually destroying the very fabric that holds families together. What people don't understand about caregiving and, caregiver burnout is you get to a point where you completely just give up. Your relationship, your trust, your love for that individual just has been overtaken with all these sufferings and challenges that you guys went through. So I find myself advocating and, helping, supporting families and so forth, looking for resources in the community. Some of these families have no access to these resources, because they could be that 80, 90-year-old person with no social media know-how, and there are no more phone books. Family doctors sometimes don't know, what to do or where to send these individuals until they get to the hospital. Maybe their spouse has started to hit them and so forth. So I decided that I needed to do something about it, to have a bigger reach. I'm trying in my own little way to make a difference, but I want more people to know about this disease, because there's so much misunderstanding about dementia. A lot of people only know about Alzheimer's and, and some of this can be prevented. So that is why I decided to write a book, but in so doing, I wanted it to be less threatening. I wanted to speak to the voices of children, because I actually wrote 3 books as well. I also meant for this book to be enjoyed and understood and by all. It doesn't matter what your age, anyone that picks up that book will learn something from the book. So that is why I wrote the books.
Well, A Rose for Grandma is one you sent me, and it's absolutely beautifully done. And it tells a wonderful story and the realities and the innocence of a child, and that bond of wanting to help one another. And I think children are so priceless because they don't see a lot of things that adults see. They haven't been taught to look at things differently and put things down. They still just kind of want to play and engage. and things for the most part out there. And I think they have a wonderful way of teaching adults to kind of let go of some of the baggage that we've held on to. And they're open to learning, I think, easier too. Than not all adults, but a lot of them out there. They've got their beliefs, they're going down that path, and you're not going to change my mind. Where kids really want to know what's going on, and how can I help? And so you've just done a really beautiful job with that book, and bringing out in an honest, beautiful way illness that is going to hit us all at some point. It might not be a form of dementia, it might be something else, but all of those caring concerns and how we treat one another are still there, no matter what it is we're dealing with. And so I think it's a beautiful opportunity that you took to put it to words, and the pictures are beautiful in the book as well.
Yes, thank you.
Really illustrated.
I try to use the pictures to tell the story. The other books, actually, the next one is about vascular dementia, and the third one is on mixed dementia, but those are not published yet. I'm looking to publish the second book by this spring, God willing. So the thing also is we tend to overlook our children. So children are sort of ignored, but they see everything. Sometimes parents think they are protecting them. Honesty is the best policy. They see, so let them understand what is actually going on with grandma or grandpa, so that they don't feel that their grandparents don't love them on days that are really difficult, when they don't want to talk. When you get children involved, it's like Annie. After she heard what was happening, she went to school. She was thinking, just completely, overwhelmed with everything. And then the teacher saw that and asked her what was going on. They used that opportunity to educate other children. And also she found out that she was not alone. There were other children that were dealing with similar issues. So it's really helpful. And what I'm trying to now let people know is Alzheimer's or dementia is not a family disease. It's the most isolating disease, because you lose your friends, you lose, people just think they can catch it, or people feel like, if you can't understand them, there's no use talking with you, and so forth. But it should be a family disease and a community disease. So the more we know, when friends can even just offer you a meal, or even come and sit with your loved one for a couple of hours when you take a break, that would be so important. So that is what I'm now trying to help people understand. We need to all learn about this disease, because it's a global epidemic, So let us learn, and let us learn how to support and be sensitive to people with the disease. Yeah. Because sometimes I take my residents for walks, and people start glancing at us, looking at us, sort of moving out of the way. They're not going to catch it, A lot of education, a lot of stigma to move through. The other thing I would add with kids is, I think not only do they worry, did they do something wrong? Does somebody not love them anymore because they're not talking to them? But also the whole family dynamics changes. It does. And so they might have been kind of king of the hill. Now they're down here, and they have no idea what happened, because families are trying to protect them, but yet they still feel everything that's changed. They just don't have any explanation for it. And as we know, at anybody at any age, that's not healthy. We all want to understand what's going on, and we all want to be able to help as well. Sometimes kids start to act up, they start to act up, or they withdraw and even become depressed as well, right? So. Oh, good point. Good point. Yep, exactly. Now, you brought up a couple times about caregiver burnout, and it's really easy to get fried out and get overwhelmed. How would you define that for people who might not really understand? Maybe they haven't stepped into the caring ring, or don't think they have yet. And then how do you prevent it? So the thing is, every one of us is either going to be a caregiver, or we need a caregiver. And unfortunately, it does not come with instructions, right? So you just fall into it. You've done this, you did this for many, many years. So, but when you are in the process, I was actually thinking about myself when my children were babies. I felt like I was the only one who could, nurture them when they are in distress. Even when they are with their dad, they start crying. I reach out to pick them up. So this is the mistake that a lot of caregivers make. You think you are the one and only person that can take care of your loved one or do the best care. But caregivers need to learn to be a little bit selfish. The saying, put on your own oxygen mask first before you can help someone else. So caregivers need to learn how to accept help, ask for help. And also, people don't, like we talked about earlier, people don't understand this disease very well. Learn everything you can about this disease. It's a debilitating disease. It's a disease that eventually will lead to death. So, and there are so many challenges along the way. Everyone with this disease exhibits different things. So, but once you have that common knowledge, you will know how to navigate it and you have the support system with you. But again, caregivers don't understand or know what caregiver burnout is when they get to that point. So if you start to become easily overwhelmed, irritable, you're not sleeping well. Mind you, people with dementia sometimes don't sleep, but find time to take a nap during the day. And you may start having digestive issues. You start not to, like the things that you like to do. You start to withdraw, even some people have panic attacks, increased anxiety, depression, so many things, but you don't really know, or even just feeling sick. All of a sudden, you have so many complaints and the illnesses that the doctor cannot even diagnose. This could be part of caregiver burnout. So what do? When you understand what it is, or you start to reach out for help, you could talk to a professional, look for resources in your area, community centers. You offer a lot of things, Lori, yourself, right? The Alzheimer Society, and, there are caregiver support. A lot of people find that, just talking to someone else who is sort of dealing with the same thing is so helpful. Get help with respite care, either day respite or overnight respite, even 1 week, take a break. And in every given day, please try to take at least 20 minutes for yourself, for a mental health break. As well, have a self-care plan, a health plan. You have to eat right, you have to exercise, you need to rest. So these are all the things that you need to do, and many more, to help, mitigate caregiver burnout.
I think you're so right. A lot of people don't know that they're a caregiver to begin with, and then they don't realize that they're burnt out because they're so busy being busy, delivering care and doing everything that they used to do. We're not evaluating ourselves. We're not seeing the changes happening within our own bodies and minds. We're not necessarily checking off, hey, you really aren't sleeping, you really aren't eating well, you haven't seen friends in forever, you haven't had you haven't laughed,
Yeah,
I mean, all of those things are really, really essential. And I loved when you said about support groups, because I know I was resistant to go to one, thinking, oh, and it was probably cocky on my side, and I didn't even know that I was being like that, but I was like, well, I know more than the average bear, I'll be okay. So I thought, oh, I don't need that. And I went to a support group to listen to a friend who was supposed to talk, who ended up not showing because he was sick.
Oh.
And I thought, I'm coming back. Because it was just nice to be around other people that understood what it was you were going through, and you could laugh, you could cry, you could just be honest, and they understood, where a lot of times other family members and friends don't understand. And then that gets I think the care partner even more frustrated and feeling more alone and pushes people away, because it's like, well, then don't come around if you don't get it, if you're not going to help, if you don't see it, because you're just making my job harder. And people don't even see that it's almost like a invisible tug of war that's going on, and then all of a sudden it's an all-out war and the whole family can feel it. It's really bizarre how things kind of fester small and then they just kind of blow up, and not healthy. And like you said, with all the health issues, those can be signs of burnout, and people don't think about those. But I would say for anyone listening who is caring for another is, how many times have you thought maybe you should go to the doctor, but haven't because you don't have time?
Mhm.
And that's probably, I think, one of the most common things. And please, if you disagree with me, please speak up. But I see a lot of care partners saying, I don't have time to go for myself. And they just keep pushing it off. And then their situation, it mounts and gets even bigger.
And the thing is, the caregiver guilt is a
Mhm.
killer. Even long after loved ones are gone, families are still grappling with that, like, the caregiver guilt. I think caregivers should be able to forgive themselves. Like, you may have negative thoughts. Some people may even wish their loved one dead. It doesn't make you a bad person. Own the feeling and deal with it. And also, just like you were, I actually forgot what you said just now, but, just look after yourself too, because if you don't, one day, some caregivers die even before the ones that they are caring for. So when you're completely depleted and you can no longer give anything of yourself, you have failed both of you. So you need to just make sure that you care for yourself so that you are able to do this care longer and be there to support your loved one for a lot longer.
Yeah, I agree. And I've seen that play out many times, as I'm sure you have, where all of a sudden the care partner's in the hospital with a heart attack or something else, and then the whole family jaws are dropping, going, what do we do now? And the care partner's going, well, I never saw this one coming. It wasn't going to be me that was going to go out first, or I was never going to get this sick. And there's most of them don't have a backup plan of what if something happens to me, and that needs to be part of the plan if we're going to be honest. Now, you also have a wellness podcast called Forever Young. Why don't we talk about that and what inspired you to do that? You're just this mover and shaker up in Toronto. I love it.
So when I see a need, I try to fill it. So again, that was inspired by just looking at my resident population. I have currently a gentleman who is almost 100. He'll be 100 in May. He can still do stairs and he can still take care of most of his own needs. I also have residents who are in their 70s who have a very difficult time, even getting out of the chair. So, and a few years ago, maybe about 10 years ago, I got interested in wellness. That was when I became a natural health nutritionist. I realized that, how you treat your body, what you bank is what you're going to, be able to cash, when you grow older. So it's what you put in that you will get out. So what is the difference between this healthy 100-year-old and the people that are not so healthy? Like, what is the problem? What is the cause? So I realized that, chronic gut health will lead to chronic diseases. And all of us, we're dealing with inflammation and all this gut inflammation. This is a science that is not well received or is still new, but a lot of people now are more proactive about their health. So I wanted to share what I know. So I invited a friend of mine to join me. And on Forever Young, we talk about all different health situations in very plain language. I'm not talking about research or anything. I'm just talking just like an average person, giving people ideas. So we talk about caregiver burnout, resilience, anxiety, depression, obesity, because like I said earlier, some of the dementias can be prevented. Like even now, when I don't want to be controversial, but even now they're saying that you can prevent Alzheimer's disease. So how do we keep our residents, their families, and even the younger people living forever young by doing the right things, eating healthy, exercising, rest, mitigating your stress levels, and so forth. And especially with this pandemic, we're in a mental health crisis. So what can you do? Like, the serotonin, the happy hormone, actually, we have more in our guts than in the brain. So if you eat right, you could be, your mental health could be better than when you eat a lot of junk food and you're not, so those type of things are the things that we talk about. Just, help everyone stay at home and be dementia free if possible. So
wouldn't that be lovely? And you had mentioned the inflammation, which it causes so many different diseases.
yeah.
It's huge. And yet in most communities, and I'll say even when we were doing our memory cafe in person, for the longest time, we were serving sweets. And it's like, no, we need to switch to nuts and fruit. And, it was just because that's the way it was always done. And so
Mhm.
we kind of fell into that mode until one day we kind of slapped ourselves in the face and said, what are we doing? This doesn't even make sense. We're talking one thing and we're walking another path. And sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it until there's a conversation that points it out. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
And it's not to say that you shouldn't eat sweets anymore, but you have to limit it, have a balance,
Mhm.
like go more low glycemic, so reduce the sugar content and so forth. So yeah. So for instance, if you're serving cookies, you're serving, don't add ice cream and stuff, you can also have vegetables on the side and all that, because we are creatures of habit. When you tell people not to do something, they will do it more, unfortunately. It's just the way it is. So you have to, teach people to balance. This is what we do. How do you bring a high glycemic food to low glycemic level so that, it balances out?
Mm-hmm. Well, and dietary stuff is complicated, and every diet is telling you something different out there, trying to sway you, which makes it even more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And I know even with my own healthcare now, I said, well, I'd like to meet with a nutritionist. Oh, we don't do that anymore. You can come in and we'll put you on a pill. And I'm like, I don't want to go on a pill. I want to learn about the food because I've always been ignorant about that.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we just don't do that anymore. And I thought, a pill is not always the answer.
No, it's not.
And then that could come up with some other issues. I was shocked at that, though. I was absolutely shocked at that. I'm like, oh, do I have to get diabetes for you to have me meet with a nutritionist?
That's why you have to be proactive. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of information and misinformation, but you have to look at what resonates with you,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, take baby steps. You don't have to become vegetarian to be healthy. You don't have to shop Whole Foods to only eat good food, but just learning, like how much sugar should I take in? Mm-hmm. What is good? How to read labels. So it's like something as simple as a yogurt. You go and buy yogurt that has 20 grams of sugar. That's not helpful. So when you know that you're looking at about the average of 5 grams of sugar or a little bit more per intake, that would be great. So there are lots of things that you can learn and, do it on yourself, by yourself, or, find health and wellness people to support you. Exactly. Because medicine is not geared for that yet. So the traditional medicine still has its ways.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of people will say medicine isn't to make us healthy.
Well, I'm not going to say anything.
I know, but there's people out there thinking it. And there's times when I feel that way, and there's times when I don't. It's a complicated situation.
But the good thing is more and more doctors and health practitioners are now embracing wellness, because nutrition wasn't something that was taught for many. I think doctors have only so many hours of nutrition classes. Mm-hmm. So you can't do what you don't know. It's like, the pill and surgery and stuff, but it's changing. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be proactive to see what doctor resonates with your thinking and who do you think will help you achieve the health that you want to attain.
Yeah. And you've got to be your own advocate too.
Yes, you have to.
So.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about your dementia care homes, because you're talking about Alexis Next.
Yes.
So that must be your next version. So why don't you tell us the difference between the existing version and what you conceptually see in the future? So
Alexis Nest is in a revolutionized Alexis Lodge. These are memory care facilities that are going to provide not just exceptional, compassionate, and person-centered care, but we're also creating purpose-built facilities that are evidence-based design and will affect the way that we practice with very high infection control practices. So in these buildings that we are considering, we're going to have sensors that will monitor, the working gates of residents, that will monitor sleep, and, they will help us to have data that will help improve the care that we provide. So basically, this is where care meets design and technology. So it will be high touch, high technology, and, evidence-based design. And we are also not just going to be providing care for the people that live in our buildings. We're going to reach out into the community to support people to have their loved one live at home longer, in the sense that we can provide dementia consultants to go into the homes and help them, even recreational therapists to help, families know how to keep their loved ones, entertained and active, and just enhance their care levels. See, sometimes when people have dementia, people tend to think they can't do anything else, but they can. There's so many ways that you can get them, break down those steps for them, but it's not something that everyone can pick up. As well, we are going to have families be able to come in and receive training inside Alexis Lodge, while we're also providing day respite and overnight respite care. So we do that now, but we haven't done that because of COVID. But it's everything that we do, but we are taking it up a notch.
Well, that's exciting. I like the high touch, the high tech, the high design, and the high connection level that you're going to be pulling together, with all of that. When you talk about the sensors for the gate and stuff, I had interviewed a friend of mine. She's over in Australia, and I had never seen anything like it before, but they had sensors in the floor so they could tell where everybody was at in the building. They had elevators where people would have like a key fob, and they would just have it around, their wrist, but the elevator wouldn't open if it wasn't the right elevator to their floor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it was incredible, the stuff. And the lights would come on as somebody was walking down the hall instead of having everything lit all the time. They had little boxes on the outside of a room where if somebody had to drop off laundry or medications or whatever it was, they could put them in, open up this kind of hole in the wall, this cabinet, drop it off. And so they wouldn't have to interfere with somebody's privacy until it was time to go in to see them for a specific thing. But if they knew somebody was sleeping and resting, they didn't interfere with it. It was pretty amazing, all of those things that can come into play that make such a huge difference. Or I know Abe's Garden does this. They have on their nightstands, they have put sensor lights. So when somebody gets up out of bed and their feet hit the floor, the light goes on, but it's not bright and it doesn't have to plug into the wall. Nobody knows it's there, but they have them placed kind of through the room and on the way that are out of the way. So no one's going to be picking at them or pulling at them or wrecking them, because they're not going to see them, but they'll just automatically come on for safety and stuff. I don't think people realize how much stuff is out there, and how exciting it all is.
It is, because those are purpose-built facilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about putting people in, resort-like homes. I don't remember the name of the lady. I think it's something to do with the autism report, where she says that stability is a function of the environment. So if you were to put a grown man in a children's playground, it's not going to function. So it's where you put people. So you want to put people in spaces where they can function. So we know people have dementia. We know what challenges they have. So how do we help them function better, more independently, with support? Because you want to just promote their dignity. So that is what that is. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm really excited for when we actually come to that.
Oh, very much so. And I think it was really important when you mentioned about the independence, because so many people think once you leave your house, you've lost your independence. And it's really just like you said, it's about making a better match so you can live freer and more independently without the burdens of something that doesn't match your needs anymore. And it'll probably let you sleep and your family sleep a little bit easier, because people aren't going to be worried about all the what ifs that could happen in safety issues. I know we went through that with my own folks when they were living up at the lake, and things had declined, not only with my mom, but my dad had brain cancer. And they weren't always making the best choices. And so one winter, we found out that my mom had taken a fall. And even though I talked with them 3 to 4 times a day, they lived like 2.5 hours away, I didn't hear about that. My brothers didn't hear about that till summer. And we just thought, this can't go on, because everybody up at the lake, who they're very close with, left in the winter and went south. But my folks weren't able to. And so we needed to do something different in the winter, for them. And it was a little bit of a challenge at first, convincing my dad. my mom was okay. But then my dad really, he realized it once the change was made, and he was still able to go to the lake and do those things. But there was just more support, and it was really less burden on him, but he wasn't looking at it like that originally. The other thing I loved is when you talked about giving family education.
Yes.
I think that is a missed mark on a lot of levels. I think many communities educate, but a lot of them don't do it on a regular basis. Or the other thing that I think that can be really helpful is when you're educating the staff at the same time or on a similar piece as the family. So then everyone's speaking the same language as new tools are coming in. And I think that that's something that most organizations don't do, because they see them as totally separate. And we're not. We're all working together, or we should be, for the same cause.
For the same purpose, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Gosh. Well, you are really doing some neat things and a lot of variety, which I love. You're really taking it to a lot of different levels and using different mediums to be able to voice your thoughts and educate people. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have? Anything we're missing?
No, I think we've talked about it all, except that I'll love another opportunity to come back and talk to you about my next book, the one on vascular dementia, on masking grandpa, because that's another interesting one that, and like I said, it's more preventative than the Alzheimer's, and people just need to know to take better care of themselves. What you eat matters. I think one of my favorite quotes is from Heather Morgan. She says, every time you eat or drink, you're either feeding disease or fighting it. So just imagine that. Every time you take a bite, you are either causing disease down the road. It takes a long time for chronic diseases to manifest. So let's all, eat well, sleep well, exercise, mindful movements, and also mindful moments. Take time to just relax, give yourself a break, and keep your brain healthy and strong, and look for ways to mitigate your stress so that it'll be a happier society. So that's all I have to say.
What a wonderful way to wrap things up. It was so concise and made so much sense. And I think sometimes we think everything has to be so complicated, and it really doesn't. But we just, like you said, we have to be mindful about it. We have to think about it. We have to live consciously, and realize the choices we're making instead of just getting through our day. And I think life has gotten so fast. People are just so focused on getting through the day, and then binge watching TV because they don't want to deal with anything.
With a lot of snacks.
Yeah, and that's just
eating mindlessly.
Yeah,
it's a huge bag of something you shouldn't eat. So yeah, we need to be more mindful and exercise, walk, just walking. Getting some fresh air. keep ourselves forever young.
Exactly. Now you have a website. We've got an email. They can purchase your book on Amazon. We've got your LinkedIn information. You have a YouTube channel, Twitter, Instagram, and then also your phone. We've got all those things listed for people, on the radio page, on the blog posts, and so forth. So, check it out. She's here to talk to. Reach out to her, and maybe there's a collaboration out there somewhere along the line. Maybe you want her as your next guest or featured speaker. She's full of knowledge, and it really has just been a privilege to have you on the show with us today. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much, Laurie. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And to our listeners, please like, click, and share. This was loaded with valuable information, and I can't wait to see your next level community too. So we'll have to definitely stay connected for your next book, your community, and I look forward to following you on your podcast as well.
I appreciate the opportunity. I have a great week.
You too.
Yes.
Bye now, everyone.